So, welcome to everybody who's here, watching on Zoom, joining us on Facebook. I know a bunch more are still to come, so I will definitely preempt this again by saying this whole webinar is being recorded. If you've got to step out, it will be available after the fact for you to watch and watch over and over again, like a binge-watched show. I'm Daniel Steinfeld from On the Block Realty and On the Block Auctions, and I'm very happy today and excited to be joined by Nadia Childs, who is the listing agent for 6060 Snowy Owl, which she's going to tell us all about. And we're also going to walk through a pretty detailed explanation and tutorial on how transparent auctions work, because this property is being sold in a way that many of you may never have seen before, but we're really happy to be a brokerage that's able to offer transparent, open bidding auctions, and we're going to get to that later on. So if you've got questions as we go, feel free to use the chat. We're monitoring that. I'm just going to ask, it looks like everybody's muted, which is great. So if everybody could stay muted throughout, that would be much appreciated. And I do also say, when it comes to questions, a lot of the questions I might just point out we're going to cover over the course of the webinar. If they're really pressing in the moment, we'll answer them. But we do get a lot of questions that tend to be fairly consistent when it comes to auctions. So feel free to ask them, but don't be turned off if I don't answer it right away, because I will get to it. And with that, I'm going to throw it over to Nadia to tell us a little bit about the property we're talking about. Oh, you're still muted. Good old Zoom. It's what we do.
I muted myself when you said everybody mute yourself. Okay. So thanks everybody for showing interest in this listing. I'm pretty excited to be bringing it to market, and this is my first auction that I've held. I've watched On the Block do several successful auctions in the time I've been with them, and this is really an exciting process and something I've been super passionate about. So I'm excited to be sharing this listing with all of you and your buyers. I'm just going to quickly go in here into the matter report to just quickly walk you guys through the home. As you know, it's a condo townhome, a split level floor plan. MPAC listed as 500 square feet per floor. That includes the basement. So it's roughly 1,500. The floor plans we had done come in closer to 1,400, but it's somewhere between 1,400 and 1,500 square feet of living space. And when you step in, you can see that there are some updates that most buyers likely will want to take care of, like the broadloom carpeting throughout and this very fancy 90s mirrored wall. But it's got a lot of great features, you know, some nice separation of space. Some people have asked me whether or not this wall that is between the kitchen and the dining room could be opened up for a more open concept feel. I can't really speculate on that. I always advise with a condo corporation, it's probably best to seek the approval of the board before removing any walls or anything like that. That being said, here is the kitchen. Some of the original appliances, but the stainless steel refrigerator is just a couple years old. California shutters on all of the blinds, pretty much throughout the whole, or on all the windows throughout the whole home. There's actually, I don't know if any of you were in the home this past week or on the weekend. There's a little button that looks like a doorbell right on the inside. I don't know if I can show it. Yeah, right there. That actually opens the garage door as well. A couple people found that cool. And then just take you guys down to the main living area. So again, California shutters, nice high ceilings here. A walkout to the back deck, which is fully fenced, and there's patio stones down there. We had a few people also asking about, there's a walkway that is between the backyard neighbor's fence and your fence in this unit. And that's basically just a fire exit. It's the fire code. Any of these townhouse complexes that are attached units, they need to have that means of egress at the back. So nobody really uses it unless it's for an emergency. So there's not like gonna be random people just walking through your backyard. Laundry's right here. And then in the basement, Usually when I do home tours with my buyers, I like to take them upstairs first, but you know, here we go. We're going to the basement first. A nice large den slash office, which really could be used as a third bedroom. It's big enough for a bed and has a separate door. And then the ensuite or second washroom, the 1.5 piece bath that we have here as well. And then back here, which you can't see on the Matterport, but there's all of the mechanical equipment, and the furnace room is here. There's also room for added storage. I will point out that as of the time of taking the listing, the mechanical equipment in the home was rented. The sellers are in the process of obtaining a payout statement, and their intention is to have the new buyers own it free and clear on closing. I should have more information about that for you guys by this afternoon, and I will update all interested buyers and their agents about that. And the agreement of purchase and sale that Daniel will talk about later will be updated to reflect that as well. So nice stairwell here. You can kind of overlook the living room, up the stairs. Up here, the floors were replaced a few years ago. And so they're a nice laminate. And then 2 large bedrooms. I think we're calling this one the master. It is the largest, although it doesn't have quite as big of a closet. Again, lots of windows. It faces the front of the house. It's south-facing unit, so lots of sunlight comes in. The 2 large beds can actually fit in here. It's a large room and a large closet. Second bedroom. And then there's 2 closets actually in this room. I know the borders probably people don't like. A little bit of wallpaper removal and some paint, though it will look amazing. So there's another closet right here, which I don't know how easily you can see, but this one's quite big. And then you've got your sliding double door mirrored closets as well. And that is pretty much the tour. Oh, the maintenance fees are nice and low, $227-ish a month. I'm not looking at the exact figures, and I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what it is. It does not include a ton. It's mostly just landscaping and snow removal. It doesn't include your windows. It doesn't include your roof, but it's still nice and low, which is good. So I think that's all I wanted to share about the home. Yeah. Unless anybody has any specific questions about it, which I can answer, but otherwise you will be getting another follow-up email tonight with the webinar recording and any other final details that I need to share.
Cool.
I'll stop
All right. And we are back. Thank you for that. So yeah, as Nadia said, feel free to ask any questions here, reach out to Nadia. If you haven't yet seen the home, now you've seen it virtually. You can still book showings through tomorrow. So it's a great place to look at. I mean, I think some of the things I think you mentioned, we will actually see in the auction page as well. There's a lot of information on the page. So if you go to 6060snowyowl.com, that is where the auction takes place. That's where I'm going to go to right now to start to talk about this process and the auction as well. So let me just share my screen here, if I can find the right one. So we're going to go to that right now. Again, I'm at right now I'm on otvauctions.com. But if you go to 6060snowyowl.com, which is the address, or you come to otvauctions.com, you have the ability to go straight to the auction page, which is what I'm going to do. So on our homepage right here, you can see right on this ticker on the top, it says bidding open soon in 1 day, 5 hours, which is tomorrow. And if you were to click view now, it goes right to the auction page. Alternatively, if you click current auctions at any point in time, it'll show you any auctions we've got on the go that are either in the middle of bidding or about to start. So I'm just going to click right on view now at the top corner here. And that is taking us right to the auction page, which is where Nadia had started. You might have noticed when she shared her screen in the beginning, she actually accessed that virtual tour through the auction page itself, which you have the ability to do as well. Our goal with the auction platform is obviously first and foremost to bring transparent bidding as an option to sellers, and to even more so to buyers who have been frustrated with the blind bidding process out there. But it's also to provide as much information as possible that you're able to access through this page at one time, because there are some limitations that you run into with MLS and realtor.ca in terms of the amount of stuff you can get. And our goal is to really be as transparent as possible, not just with the price, but with everything having to do with the property and the process. So again, I'm going to go through the entire auction process now in detail, ask questions as we go. Feel free to use the chat in the Zoom room, or if you're watching on Facebook, you can use it there as well. And I'll be answering things as we go. And again, this is being recorded, so if you've got to go or if you got here late, this is all going to be available to view afterwards. Okay, so we're at 6060 Snowy Owl, the auction page right here. And you can see some important things right off the bat here. You can see the current price is listed, which is the same as the MLS listing price. I will say, as a preamble to all of this, the auction process, the best way to look at it is through the eyes of someone who's familiar with the traditional real estate process or the traditional blind bidding process, because everything about this, from listing to sale, is exactly the same, with the one big difference being that the bids are all transparent. Okay, so I'm going to potentially gloss over some of the things that are consistent with what you're used to, just in the interest of time. But really everything that's happening here is stuff you should be familiar with. And I'm just going to touch on the things that are a little bit different. So the current price represents the starting bid. The same way that a listing price in a bidding war might be a lower number, and they're expecting potentially a larger number. This is the starting bid when the auction opens. The lowest you're able to bid is $699,000. And then that conceivably will work up from there, provided people are making bids against one another. The start time here, this is a ticker that will be going down in real time between now and the auction. And so the auction itself will start bidding at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, which is February 15th. Happy Valentine's Day today, by the way, everybody. I see Nadia, you're wearing appropriate gear for it. Right on. I don't have red. It's bad. I got a chocolate heart here that I'm going to eat after this. So the auction starts tomorrow at 5 p.m. And when this ticker goes down to 0, a new ticker will start counting down 3 hours, which is the length of the auction, and the auction bidding will close at 8:00 p.m. So you've got 3 hours in which you can either watch the auction, participate in the auction, or just keep an eye on things if you'd like. We're used to seeing a lot of people tuning in and just watching this as a spectator sport, which is fine. One question we get is, if I'm not bidding, can I see what's happening? Absolutely. At any point in time, whether you're registered or not, you can always see the current price and the current status of the auction. You're just limited in the things you can do on the site if you're not registered, which we'll talk about. It also says pre-bidding is now open right now, which I will talk about as we go forward. But in short, you're able at any point in time, now included, to place a bid before the auction actually starts. So if you know, for example, you want to make a bid of a certain amount of money and you don't want to be around tomorrow to watch it, or you're not available tomorrow, you can place, and we recommend that people do, you can place in a maximum bid or any bid you'd like that's at the current price or higher. And that stays confidential throughout, but it also doesn't get shown until the auction opens. So in the event there are any pre-bids that are placed, any and all of those will effectively go into play the moment the auction opens at 5:00 tomorrow. For example, if somebody makes a bid of $710,000, let's say, as a pre-bid, when the auction opens tomorrow, if that's the only pre-bid there was, you will see the auction actually open with one bid and a current price of $710,000. Okay, so if anybody has questions about the pre-bid process, feel free to ask, but I am going to get into how you do that a little bit later on when we talk about the bidding itself. Past that, you can see here, bidding is not yet started on this property. I'm logged in, or I'm actually on the page right now as someone who doesn't have an account. So this is what all of you will see if you haven't registered yet. You can see there's a button here that says log in or register to pre-bid. As I mentioned, you're not able to make a pre-bid or any bid without registering on the site, which we're going to go through. But you do have access to some information right now, even without registering. If you want to book a showing, the Visit This Home button gives you the ability to book a showing. If you're working with an agent or you are an agent, definitely use the traditional channels. If you do go to the Visit This Home button and you try to book a showing and you've got an agent, it will prompt you to talk to your agent and book it through them. If not, it will feed through and we're able to book a showing for you. Beyond that, the open house has happened. So if you were there, thanks for coming. But we do give information about that. And I'm going to cycle through again. There's a lot of information about the home here that's consistent with some of the stuff you might see on realtor.ca or on different sites. a lot of details that answer a lot of the questions you might be talking about, specifics of the home, details about the rooms, about the structure, the area, things like that, as well as some multimedia that you're entitled to watch as well, which the virtual tour here is the Matterport, which is the 3D dollhouse tour that Nadia just took you on, as well as a fun video that goes through for about a minute and a half that you could see that as well. Now, and just skipping the documents for a second, then you've also got all the pictures you can see as well. Lots of pictures here, as well as the floor plan and detail about auction terms you can download from the documentation that's attached, which brings us to the first part of this page, which is the documentation itself. The documentation for any of our auctions includes as much as is possible to give you information about the process and the property. When you're not registered with a basic account, and a basic account, which we're going to go to, just requires your name and your email address, you don't yet have the ability to download the documents. So if you'd like to see things such as the home inspection, the status certificate, there might be additional information like surveys, as well as the actual paperwork that you fill out to purchase the home, you need to be registered with a basic account to be able to download the documents. So in order to do that, I'm going to show you how that process works. I know a lot of people on this call have registered already, which is great. For those of you who haven't seen this before, when you press login on any of these buttons you see on the page, you'll be faced with a welcome thing here. Obviously, I've got an account that I'm not going to use. You can just click sign up here at the bottom, and it'll bring you to a sign up page. Now, very important, when you sign in, the first question you're asked is whether or not you're working with a realtor. And this means, are you represented as a buyer with a realtor representing you, or are you a realtor yourself, which would also infer that you are working with a realtor, who is you. But we don't do this, and I think a lot of people have thought that this is sort of a backdoor way to try to bring clients to our brokerage. But the reality is, this is our way of showing people the value of going and getting a realtor to work with you. We are not focused on what's called multiple representation, where we represent both sides of the deal. The reason for that is because in the auction process, there is no financial benefit to someone who's participating in an auction to be represented by our brokerage. In some cases, with other properties, listing agents can do things with their commission and things like that to try to get a better deal. We hear it a lot when we've got listings where people ask if they work with us, can they get a better deal? In this particular case, if you click, I am not working with a realtor, it doesn't actually send you directly to a sign-in page. In fact, it sends you to an explanation of what not working with a realtor means. And I'll summarize this to basically say, it explains to you that when you aren't working with your own independent realtor and you choose to represent yourself, you're not afforded the same fiduciary duty and client benefits that an independent realtor would be able to provide to you as a client. And it lays that out there. Now, if your question is, can I just bid myself without a realtor? The answer is yes, absolutely. We just want to make sure that you're aware that in doing that, this is what it looks like. There's no financial benefit. You're not getting any additional advisory about the process. Part of the reason for that is because it's transparent, you're going to be able to see the price anyway. And everybody who's operating in our auctions are operating on an even playing field. That's the key. All the terms are identical for everybody with the exception of price, so that everybody knows what they're up against and they know that the highest price is actually the same offer as everybody else who's participating. So you do have the ability to press I confirm here, which would send you through to a sign-in. If you are working with a realtor, this is what the sign-in looks like. You enter your first name and your last name and an email address. You set a password. And we do require, at a minimum, the name of your agent and their email address. The reason for that is when you sign up, whether you're a realtor or someone represented by a realtor, the moment you sign up, that realtor is notified you have signed up, because part of our process as well is ensuring that people representing potential bidders are informed about the process and are aware that this is happening as well, so they can be involved every step of the way as well. You have the option of putting phone number and brokerage name as well, although that's not required. The terms and conditions at this point are simply the terms associated with the website itself, not with the auction terms. These are things like our privacy requirements to you. It's all pretty boilerplate stuff you'd see on a lot of websites, but by all means, read that and agree. And then you have the option to sign up for a newsletter as well. If you do that, and press complete the basic registration, you will immediately be registered to view all the documents, and you have all the benefits of participating in our site, with the exception of actually bidding on an auction. If you know you're going to be bidding right now, your best bet is to proceed with a bidder registration right away, which does ask you a few more pieces of information, including a cell phone number so that we can complete a two-factor authentication with your cell phone, as well as the registration of a credit card on file, which is used for a couple of different reasons. It's not charged, but I will get into why the credit card is used and when it's used for the purposes of bidding. So I'm going to now log in, though, as a basic account. I'm going to go back to our auction page here, and I'm going to log in with a basic account so you can see what that would look like. Let me go to my basic account. Okay, so now we're logged in with a basic, actually this might be a bidder account as well. You can see pre-bidding is open here. It's giving me the ability to bid, but I won't bid right now. So when you got the access, you will now see in the document section, you have the ability to download the information that's there. And we're going to go through what's here. I'm not going to open them all, but again, you can download the status certificate for information about the condo and everything that's associated with that, and the health of the condo corp, things like that. You've got the home inspection here, which is the full home inspection that was done ahead of time, gives you the ability to look at all the things that may have been identified. Nadia spoke to it a little bit earlier. There's no major deficiencies in this property, but obviously, again, transparency and disclosure is important. And so you have the ability to look at everything there and ask any questions you might have that you find there. The floor plan you can download, as well as three very important things. First, the auction terms themselves. And if I open this, I don't know if it'll show on the screen. Let me see here. Do you see the auction terms when I do that? Okay, so when you download it, these are the standard auction terms associated with any auction we run. And the point here is, again, not to be scary and not to be too many words, but this is everything that as a bidder, you need to be aware you're agreeing to, and what your requirements are as a bidder and what the seller's requirements are as a seller when it comes to the auction. It's really meant to protect both sides and ensure that there's no gray area for what is a new process for a lot of people. We're going to talk about a lot of these things when we look at the actual auction itself, but some key things that I'm going to point out here, a reserve price. This is one of the most important things in the auction that will be a new concept to people. If you've done any online auctions before, if you've done an eBay auction, anything like that, you might be familiar with the idea of a reserve price. Same thing with real estate auctions in other jurisdictions. This is something that's a common case. What the reserve price is it represents the lowest number at which the seller is obligated to sell the property. So what that means is there is a number slightly above the starting bid, where when bidding reaches that number, the auction itself will show that the reserve price has been met, and that means there will be a firm sale at this auction. If the bidding does not reach this reserve price, again, everybody will see whether or not it's been reached in real time. If the bidding does not reach that price, the seller is not obligated to take the high offer. However, they can if they choose to. So every bidder is bound to their bids and bound to the offers they've put in there. And once the reserve price is hit, the seller is also obligated to accept the high offer. I will say that this isn't meant to be a scary high up there number. So the bidding at this property starts at $699,000. We don't disclose what the reserve price is, although you do see it when it's hit. I will say, though, we do not take on auctions and we do not set reserve prices that are exorbitant, that are far away from the starting bid. The intent is not to have people competing and figuring out what they need to do just to buy the property. We ensure that the reserve price is reasonable and it's within reach of the starting bid. So for example, a $699,000 starting bid, we would not have a $900,000 reserve price, for example. So don't look at this as a means of just getting people to compete with each other to a number they don't know. You will most certainly see the reserve price when it's hit, but it's there also to protect the seller. And in the nature of a market where people are used to seeing listings that are priced a little bit lower and searching at prices a little bit lower, part of this is to balance those two elements of what people are used to with blind bids and also being really clear with people as well. A lot of the other terms here are kind of standard things. There's no cooling off rights for this, as it's not a pre-construction new build. Details about how registration works, the bidding process, which we're going to go into in detail right after I go through this. The agreement itself, which I'm going to go back to, and I'm going to go back to that right now. The agreement itself is actually something that's available for download. It's one of the documents that's here on the page, and that is what the winning bidder will be signing. So another question we get, and I'm just going to look at the chat here as well. I see there's some stuff down here. Oh no, they're all being answered. Good. Okay. So another question that we get is, okay, I'm used to sending in offers. If I have an offer, I'm filling out a form 801, I'm sending in an offer. Where do I do that? The answer is you're not doing that until the auction's over. We're not making everyone who might want to participate fill out traditional offers and send them in. The auction itself is the process that takes place as a precursor to determining the winner, and the winner fills out the agreement of purchase and sale, populates it. And part of the auction terms you're agreeing to, and that section I was just on, is by virtue of participating, you are agreeing to populate and to be signing this form, this agreement of purchase and sale, if you're the high bidder at the price that the high bid was at the end of the auction. So if I open this up, just to give you an idea, this is a standard agreement of purchase and sale. This is the same type of agreement you'd be signing and sending in a traditional real estate. As I was saying before, this is all the same process rather than, or except for just the process you take to get to the number. You can see that it's almost completely pre-populated. And again, the reason for that is everybody's competing on a even playing field here. So the only things that are left blank are the name of the buyer, which is right here, which would be populated with the ultimate winner of the auction, the purchase price, which is going to be determined by the high bid at the end of the auction, and also the closing date as well, which we will talk about, which is subject to a range that the buyer can pick within some predetermined dates. Other than that, all of the terms are preset. You can see that the deposit is set for everybody at $35,000, which is pretty much 5% of the starting bid, to set that as an expectation for everybody who's participating. It is also upon acceptance, meaning you don't require the deposit in hand to bid. This isn't a bidding situation where you should be sending us pictures of a draft, although if you've got it and you're confident, that's fantastic. But again, you're going to know if you won that night, and you're going to be able to see the bids in real time to determine who the winner is. Other than that, all the inclusions, the exclusions, Nadia had made mention of the fact that by this afternoon, there will be detail about purchasing and buying out the equipment that's rented, and that will be added to the agreement as necessary, and the information will be sent out so that you understand what's a rental, what isn't, what the responsibilities of the buyer are. And then the Schedule A, which is details about any additional clauses, is all here as well. So this is a firm offer, meaning that things like the inspection condition, the status condition, financing condition, those are not part of the offer. That's part of the reason why we also make status certificate home inspection available ahead of time, to give people an opportunity to review that and gain comfort with those things. But we do still ensure that things like leaving the premises in a clean broom swept condition, the 2 visits, certain terms are included for everybody who's participating, but definitely make sure you and your clients, or if you are a bidder, you are able to look at this, review it, ask any questions you've got ahead of time, because there will not be alternate purchase agreements or separate offers that you put together afterwards that you'd be sending in. This is the form that would be populated. So if anybody has any questions about that process, feel free to ask. There is also what's called the Schedule B, which is a schedule that's associated with the offer itself. That is our brokerage's terms. It gives some details about things like where trust funds, the deposit funds, are held. And again, that's all the standard Schedule B that would have associated with any offer that people might make with another property. So this is what you're able to see right now. If you log in with a basic account, you're able to see that. If you log in with a bidder account, you're also going to see the ability to pre-bid here. Now, I'm not going to place one because I'm on the actual auction site right now. But the idea here is you can put any number, and this is preset with all kinds of numbers. You can put any number you want that is at or greater than the current price. This isn't based on any other pre-bids that might have been received already. So let's say we have 3 pre-bids that come in. Nobody's seeing anybody else's. There's no mention on the auction page about whether or not pre-bids have been made. But this is simply a way for you to have peace of mind that you can get a bid in there that will start off the auction. It's similar to a preemptive offer in some senses, except it still is going to participate in the auction. This isn't an offer that is being received by the seller or seen by the seller at any point in time. It's just logged in the back end of the system and held for when the auction begins. The nice thing is it's protected according to the way the auction works by protecting people's maximum bids, which is what I'm going to talk about right now, which is the actual auction process. So I'm just going to pause for a second and see if anybody has any questions. It looks like all the questions are being addressed. So if not, I'm going to now show you what the auction looks like, how it works, and how you can participate. Okay, so I'm switching over here to what looks like our homepage. If you go to, you can see the address here is demo.otbauctions.com. You're welcome to go there anytime. You don't need to be registered with a basic or bidder account. This is exactly as it says there. This is a demo of our auction platform. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with phony properties that are always up for auction. And you could see a similar thing. There's a ticker at the top. If I go to current auctions, you'll see all the current auctions that are on the go right now. We've got 2 Demo Street, 3 Demo Street, all kinds of different properties that are on the go. And so I'll choose one of them. Let's go to, I don't know, which one do we want to do? Let's do 4 Demo Street. Sure, we'll go to 4 Demo Street. So I'm going to 4 Demo Street here. You can see here, this is what the auction looks like that Snowy Owl has, with a couple of exceptions. One is the auction is currently running. So you can see it says it ends in 7 hours, which means it's ongoing right now. It also says that the current price is $600,000, but the reserve is not yet met. So when I mentioned the reserve price before, this is indicating that there, and actually it says also, you can see there's no bids yet on the property. So this is a brand new property. The auction just opened. There's no bids and the reserve hasn't been met. So you just got here and you're saying, fantastic, I want to buy this property. I want to bid on it. The rest of this all looks similar. I'm going to log in to this. Let me see if this account works to log me in. Hopefully it does. Okay, I'm logged in now. Just so you know, if you're on this page, if you're looking at any of the demos, as long as you see this red bar on the bottom that ensures it's a demo and the name of the property is Demo Street, don't be worried about buying an actual house. This isn't real. So this is your ability to have fun. And in this market, it's your ability to buy a house anytime you want, which is a nice thing because it's very hard to buy a house now. So we see here that the current price is $600,000. Now, the reserve hasn't been met. And what happens with bids leading up to the reserve price is whatever bid someone places will become the high bid. Whatever the highest bid is will become the new highest bid. That's because until the reserve price is hit, we're trying to get to that minimum number that the seller is trying to go for. Okay, so let's say I put in, for example, I want to bid $625,000. I press place bid. Now, this is a slightly dumbed down version of what you'll see in the real thing. The reason being I'm not right now using my credit card. And I'll talk about the credit card in a minute. This is just making sure I confirm my bid. The same thing will happen in the real thing, where you're going to be given ample opportunity to make sure you see the number you're typing in and that you make sure it is the right number. But you'll also have a couple of other things that you go through. I'm just going to submit this bid right here, and we are going to talk about the bidding process because that's an important thing as well. But I'm going to submit it, and you will see now, fantastic. The current price is now $625,000. Everybody on the site will see this now in real time, and a few things have changed here. Number one, it now shows everybody that there's one bid on the property. And if you click on the history, it'll show you that there's been one bid, but it won't show you, it'll never show the identity of the bidder because that's protected, obviously. If I click history, I'll show you what it shows you. You'll see here that there was a bidder. It identifies a couple of letters that might be tied to the email address, and then a bunch of asterisks there. So you won't know who's bidding, but you will be able to keep track if potentially the same person continues to bid back and forth with somebody else, things like that. But it's showing you all the activity that's taken place so far. Okay, so here we are. The reserve is not met. It's also telling me on my page that I'm the current high bidder, but the reserve price has not been met yet. Okay, so I could leave it at this. There's no guarantee I'm going to win the property if the auction ends at this number because the reserve has not been met, but I am the high bidder right now. It's also telling me the current bid increments, $2,000 at a time. For the auction at Snowy Owl, the increments are a minimum of $1,000 at a time. In case anybody's curious, you have to go at a minimum of $1,000 at a time. Okay, you guys are talking about the sniping rules. I'll get to that too, but that's important. That's a really good question. Sorry, I shouldn't have creeped on the chat room there, but I did. Okay, so it says here again, please note that until the reserve price is met, all bids are recorded as your actual bid. Once the reserve price has been met or exceeded, bids will increase only by the minimum increment required. So at this point, I can either wait and see if anybody's going to outbid me, or if I want to really just go to the reserve price. The nice thing about the reserve price is if I bid in excess of the reserve price, this system will not force my maximum bid to be the bid. So let's say I'm willing to spend $1 million on this property. Oh, somebody else just made a bid. Fantastic. Okay, so somebody else just made a bid. The reserve price is still not met. You can see that in real time, the current price has gone up. So they've bid $635,000. And now I'm being told I'm not winning this property anymore, which is harsh, but it's the truth. So now I'm saying, okay, this person wants to play ball. We're seeing this transparently right now. I know that the current bid right now is $635,000. I'm willing to spend up to $700,000 on this property, let's say. Let's say I'm willing to spend $750,000 on this property. I can put in my maximum bid at any point in time and be protected to my maximum bid. This is similar, again, to things like eBay and other online auctions. What I bid as my maximum, and I'm going to place this right now so you see what's happening. All right, look what happened. I just bid $750,000, and I'm going to stop to answer a question because I know people are asking about what happens at the end of the auction. So I'm going to answer that. So the clock is still 7 hours, 21 minutes left. But one thing that's similar with eBay is that if you're the last bid in when the clock strikes 0, you can win it by being the quickest person at the end of an auction. We do not do that here. We protect everybody to have the ability to keep bidding until the bidding is done. So the way this works is if anybody bids in the final 3 minutes of the auction, so when this clock is at 3 minutes left or less, if somebody bids, an additional 3 minutes are added to the clock. Okay, so if this is at 2 minutes left and someone bids, it goes up to 5 minutes left. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, it protects all the interested parties who are bidding and makes sure they have an opportunity to keep bidding if they want to. So if they get outbid, they're not left losing just because someone got in there faster. And obviously, it also protects the seller's interest to make sure that they get all the bids that are out there to bring them the best price for the property as well. So hopefully that answers your question. But that is one big difference from online auctions people are used to, is that you are protected as a bidder to go to your highest number and to keep bidding until you're done bidding. Now, what happened here? Oh, people are still bidding. Holy Moses. Okay. A couple of things just happened. So lots of things just happened. Let me show you what just happened. So now the current price is $682, and I'm still the high bidder. The reason for that is because I set a maximum bid of $750,000. Now, you might have seen when I bid $750,000, the current price stopped at $655,000. And the reserve also is met now. So somebody's buying this property. The reason the bidding stopped at $655,000 is because that was the reserve for this particular property. Meaning it didn't matter what I bid above the reserve price. This system is only going to give me a bid that is the lowest I need to pay to be in the lead once the reserve price is met. So if the reserve price was $655,000 and I bid $1 million, my bid will only stop at $655,000 unless somebody else continues to outbid me. And that's what has happened now. You can see that it was at $655,000 and now it's at $682,000 and I'm still in the lead. Now, if we look at the history, let's look at what happened here. We can see here, initially I was outbid by 10,000, which we saw, to 635,000. Now, when I bid 750,000, the only number anybody sees is this 655,000, which was the reserve price. Okay, so in the eyes of anybody else participating, inclusive of the listing agent and the sellers, my bid is $655,000. All right. But what happened is, whoa, my voice really went up there. What happened is it looks like somebody tried to outbid me to $680,000. And in doing that, because my maximum was already 750,000, I automatically outbid that person by the minimum increment, which in this auction is $2,000, which automatically put me at a bid now of 682,000. Now at this point, still nobody on the outside other than me knows that my maximum bid is 750,000. All that means is I don't need to be sitting and watching every single minute of the auction to see if I'm outbid. I don't need to be worried about the number I'm willing to go to. And plus, there's a very good chance I won't have to pay the number I'm willing to go to. I've just protected myself in the system so that I don't need to be sitting at the computer and outbidding people 1,000 by 1,000 by 1,000. But look what just happened. It did say I was winning the property, but now the current price is 752,000, which is 2,000 more than what my maximum was. So a few things have happened now. Number one, I'm now no longer winning the property, which is unfortunate. And I've got some thinking to do. My current maximum bid was 750,000. And if I go to the history, it looks like this person who had outbid me to 680 now has outbid to 752. It shows my maximum as a bid that I made by proxy just was my maximum. Now that's out there. People can see that because it's been outbid. And now the current leader is at 752,000. So I have a decision to make. The nice thing is, and another question we get is, oh, well, if my maximum is outbid, am I done? No, this is not like a blind bidding war where you have to wonder whether or not you're given another round or where people come back around and say, would you like to improve? You absolutely have the opportunity to improve at any point in time until the auction is over. So you can see there's still the opportunity for me to place a bid. And if I am willing to go to 754,000, let's say, or more, I'm able to outbid with that number as a minimum or anything higher than that according to the same terms as before. So let's say I'm like, okay, 800,000 is my max. I don't know, for example, if the person who's winning, if their bid was actually 752,000 or if their maximum is a lot higher, but I'm about to find out. Okay, so I'm going to go to 800,000 and I'm going to place the bid. I'm going to submit my bid and okay, I'm out because it looks like I was automatically outbid by the person who was in the lead. They've now outbid me by $2,000. Now, I still have the opportunity to improve, but the nice thing about this for anybody who's been in a situation that's blind bidding and that you never really know where you stand is sometimes it's nice to know when you're out. I know you all want to win, right? But when the price has gone beyond your means, it's a lot nicer to know it's already there rather than waiting for a phone call or waiting to determine or figure out for yourself, what do I need to do to win this property? You always see it right in front of you. And in this case, I'm going to let this property go. Okay. My maximum was 800,000, drop dead max. And now I've been outbid to $802,000. Okay. So in this particular case, oh, sorry, seen a message there. Sorry. In this particular case, everybody participating is seeing the same thing. Oh, okay, there's a question in the chat here. Let me see here. Instead of putting a max price, can I increase price ahead of current winning bid? If I can, is there any maximum number or bid I can put? So yes, you have the ability to put any bid in at any point in time that is at least what the minimum bid is. So if you're comfortable going just above, like, and I'm going to use this as an example. It's at 802,000. Let's say you don't want to put a maximum price. Let's say you might be willing to spend $1 million, but you feel like you're just going to be sitting here watching the process anyway. So I'll put the minimum of 804,000. You can do that at any point in time. You know the winning price right now is 802,000. So I'm going to bid $2,000 more. Okay, interesting thing happened here. Well, that was a really good example. So look what happened here. I'm still not in the lead, but I was only outbid by $1,000. So this is just a little trick for everybody who might be participating in the auction. The minimum increments are 2,000, but I was only automatically outbid by 1,000. What that tells me is 805,000 was the maximum bid of the person I'm up against. So they still outbid me because they had a higher maximum bid, but their maximum bid was only 1,000 more than where I was at. So now if I was to bid the minimum of 807, or actually, let me not do 807,000. You could bid 807,000 is your minimum to answer your question. But let's say you want to bid 810,000. Okay. Where do we think this is going to end up? It's not going to show the world 810,000. It's actually just going to outbid by the minimum increment of 2,000. And now I'm winning the property and I'm still protected to my maximum. So the reason we talk about maximum bids is because in some sense, it saves you a lot of back and forth with yourself of determining what you need to do. You're always going to be at the lowest number you need to win. If the auction ends right now, I'm going to win this property for 807,000. I'm never, ever going to be on the hook for my maximum bid unless the bidding goes to that level, if that makes sense. Let me just make sure. And if you've got follow-up questions to that, feel free to put that in the chat. But you can see again in the history, everybody who's participating is entitled to see the history here. You can see in this particular case, you're able to see it's probably the same two people have been going back and forth, right? There was one other person who participated down here and they backed out early, but you're able to keep track. And this then goes to a couple more things. So I'm going to go out of this particular demo right now, back to the auction page itself. And I'm happy to go back to it if we've got more questions. But what this actually also feeds to, sorry, I'm having brain dump in my own brain right now. What this also connects with is when you're in a traditional situation, one of the questions we get is how many offers are registered? How many people are registering for this thing? Because that's going to help me determine what I'm bidding, right? Sometimes the number of offers are what help determine what people are bidding. Okay, and I'm going to answer, Wendy, I'm going to answer your question right after this. Very good question. The registration of offers is not the same situation here because you're not actually sending in Form 801s. And more importantly, simply by registering to bid on an auction doesn't obligate you to bid. And an example for that would be, let's say you've got a budget for this property of $710,000. And you log into the auction at 5 o'clock, 5:30, and the bidding is already at $715,000. Just because you have a bidder account doesn't mean it's going to force you to bid $717,000. You don't have to bid, right? So the number of people who are registered doesn't necessarily dictate the number of bids there's going to be, the number of bidders. It just puts everybody in a position that they're ready to bid if the time comes. And that's really important because from a transparency perspective, the reason people always want to know how many people are registered for a property, registered to offer, is because that's going to influence the number they come forward with often. Here, you don't need that because you're always going to see the number you need. You always know the terms that are associated with everybody's offers. You're always protected to whatever number you want to go to, and you have the ability to go as high as you'd like to go until you're done, right? And so that is why the registration of offers is not the same here. Now, to answer Wendy's question, and Wendy's asking, if you're a realtor and you're bidding on a property on behalf of a client, how does that work? So a question we get often is, who's supposed to be doing the bidding here? Is it the realtor? Is it the client themselves? The short answer is both are allowed and both work totally fine. If you're a realtor, though, I'd say half the time, maybe 60% of the time, it is the realtor bidding on behalf of their client, and that's okay. But this is now going to lead to how the bidding process works and what's required of you. When you log in, I had mentioned earlier on, there's a credit card involved, as well as a two-factor authentication. The reason that the credit card is involved is to protect this process as well. It is tied to identity verification, fraud prevention, things like that as well. But what's done is when you're ready to bid, and only when you're ready to bid, there's a pre-authorization put on your credit card. And the way to think of a pre-authorization is similar to when you check into a hotel. If any of us can remember what going to a hotel is like, and you put a damage deposit down, so nothing's charged to your card, but basically there's a verification that there's a certain amount of money available that should you throw the television out the window, they're automatically able to ding your card for a certain amount of damages. The same principle applies to these auctions. When you sign up for one of our auctions, the credit card is pre-authorized, it's a tough one, for 0.5% of the starting bid, which in this case is just under $3,500. It's not an insignificant amount of money. Again, it's not charged. However, it's held as a pre-authorization to protect all the participants against someone who might log in and either put in a phony bid, win the auction and not go through with the terms as written. So for example, if you win the auction after a big back and forth, and then all the paperwork gets sent and you say, I'm not signing this, there is the ability that a penalty would be charged that you've been pre-authorized for. And that's part of what you're signing up for at the start and registration of the process. I will say that in all of the auctions we've done, that has never been charged before. It's there specifically to be prohibitive on everybody for doing funny business in the auction. So as an agent, the reason that this circles back to agents bidding is by all means, you're able to bid on behalf of your client. But if you're logging in and you're doing the bidding, you are going to be logging in with your credit card in theory, unless you're logged in as them with their credit card, which is also okay. And in the event you win the property on behalf of your client and then they back out, you would be the one on the hook for basically buying a house. Again, that has never happened, and you would only do this under the full trust of your client. We have had some agents who have done a little quick one-pager with their client that just acknowledges, I'm doing this on your behalf and this is your responsibility. But again, more than half of the bids have come in from agents on behalf of their clients, and that's okay. The way that would work is if you were to win the property as an agent, the moment the bidding is over, we will always reach out to the person who won, and you would inform us, okay, my client's name is such and such, that's what's going on the agreement, and the closing date is the other variable that I did gloss over that here, but I will mention that quickly. I don't know if I put that. Did I put that in here? I don't know if I did. What was the range for the closing for this auction?
I think it is on there somewhere.
Sure. I think it is too. It's here. Yeah, possession. 30 to
45 days.
Oh, I put 30
to 60. Ideally, it would be between March 30th and March 15th. So 30 to 45 days.
Okay, so I might adjust that. Nobody saw anything, even though I'm recording this. So yeah, basically you pick any date in that window that gets put on the agreement, as well as the final price, the name of the clients, and that's it. The other paperwork is the same. A confirmation of cooperation is sent out and signed. The Schedule B is already available here. And that's it. In the event that your client is bidding on their own behalf, part of the reason they identify an agent as part of the registration process is, again, you're kept on top of things every step of the way. And we're still going to be using that contact to be doing any communication that we do. So even if an individual wins the auction, we will be reaching out to the agent that they've identified as their representative during the registration process. The other unlikely and hasn't happened yet situation is if someone were to register and say they don't have a realtor, but they actually do, obviously there's no way for us of knowing that unless the realtor reaches out to us. So if you're aware that you have a client who is registered on the site and you want to verify that they've registered, or you haven't received a notification, just reach out to us, let us know. We will assign, we'll change their back-end information to make sure that you're associated with them. Let me see, what happens if a realtor buyer sends you a traditional offer? Okay, so once the auction has started, and this is similar also, when you know about rules for preemptive offers, for example, when somebody gives instructions that they won't consider any preemptive offers, we have had auctions that allow for preemptives, and we have had auctions that haven't happened by virtue of a traditional preemptive offer coming in. This particular property is not looking at preemptive offers, and the instructions are that any traditional offer will not be considered in advance or during the auction. So in this particular case, traditional offers won't be looked at. In cases where we will look at preemptive offers, the same rules apply. So if a preemptive comes in and it might be considered, we notify all the interested parties, and it does run the risk of turning into a blind bidding war situation. If we do actually consider a preemptive and multiple people are interested, we will not push up an auction and start the process early. Historically, the reason a preemptive would be accepted is if, for example, some of the terms of the auction are not a fit for your client or for a participant, and they want to put a really aggressive offer in that's got some different terms, if the particular property is willing to consider preemptives, that would be one of the situations where you'd want to do that. For example, you want to add a condition or something like that. You wouldn't be able to do that in the course of the auction, but you would be able to do it with a traditional preemptive. So hopefully that answers your question there. What am I missing of other questions? I feel like there's a couple things I might have skipped through here. If anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to address them. I've kept it within the 1 hour, which is good. We've got 4 minutes to jump into other things. Again, I will encourage everybody, while we're on this page though, if you are interested in the property and you're already pretty sure you're going to bid, there is no benefit to waiting. No benefit whatsoever to waiting either till the auction starts or till the end of the auction. Because again, the clock will keep extending to ensure everybody's put their best foot forward. And I know that there's a lot of, oh, there's a question here as well. Is this legal? Okay, I'm gonna answer that too. Short answer, yes, I'll explain it in a minute. But just to finish the thought, by bidding now or at the beginning of the auction, all you're doing is basically saving yourself a lot of staring at numbers and wondering what to do, right? If you already have a number you're comfortable with, put it in now. It's not going to show up. We're not going to see it. Nobody sees it. It'll just start to shape the beginning of the auction if there are any pre-bids in there, and you will still be protected the same way as you would be during the auction. Same thing. If you want to participate at 5 o'clock versus at 7:59, there's no benefit of jumping in at the end, right? If you put in a maximum number or you put in any number, you're in the game and you're able to see where you stand whenever you want to be doing that instead of waiting till the tail end. I think too many people think there's psychology to it, that if I come in at the end, and without fail, we always have people who are waiting till the clock gets down to 2 or 3 minutes, and then they're surprised that the clock extended because they thought that they were going to win it at the end. There's no benefit in doing that. And plus, you also don't need to put in your maximum number at any point in time either, right? Because you're able to improve down the road. By all means, if you know you've got a maximum number you're comfortable with, put it in, set it and forget it, as they used to say in the food dehydrator infomercials. But you can still come back. You will be notified if your bid is outbid with an email. My advice to you, my strong advice though, is don't rely on getting a notification or an email to see if you could been outbid or not. All it takes is being away from your phone or anything like that and missing the end of the auction when you meant to go higher. Now, to answer the is this legal question, yes, this is legal. Auctions in real estate in Ontario by realtors is right now not allowed by definition. And so the reason this is allowed is that the auction itself is not conducted by the brokerage. There is a third-party auction house with its own auctioneer. It's independent of the brokerage, and that company, On the Block Auctions, is conducting the auction itself. So we outsource to the auction company to run the auction. The actual transaction itself is then thrown back to the brokerage. This is also for that reason that it's a third-party company. It is a service that we've also been able to offer to other brokerages. One of our more recent auctions was done by, I want to say she was a Remax agent in Kingston. I hope it's Remax. I think let's just say it was another brokerage in Kingston, ran great, and the auction platform was used as a service to do that. But again, the actual process is entirely legal. As well, everybody who's participating, again, transparency is our key element of this entire process. And so everybody who's participating, whether it be the seller, whether it be the buyer, whether it be the agents involved, our hope and goal is that everybody is fully aware of the process. They're fully comfortable with how to do this, and they've asked any questions they've got ahead of time. I would strongly recommend to anybody who hasn't yet created an account, whether it's basic or bidder, to do that if you'd like to look at this a little bit more so. It gives you a lot more ability to look through the auction. Again, it doesn't require you to bid. We don't spam you with things. If you choose a newsletter, you'll get a newsletter once in a while. But if you're going to bid, another recommendation I'd make is set up that bidder account now as well. Because with things like credit cards and pre-authorizations, we have run into situations where people might not have been ready for that. and they've come to the site at 7 o'clock on auction night with an hour to go, and they go, uh-oh, I don't have a credit card, or my credit card doesn't have the room on it to pre-authorize for this, it will not allow you to bid if you're not able to provide that as part of the registration process. So registering now, having all that set up, and again, participating earlier rather than at the last minute will ensure that this is a very smooth process. We have done many of these. They always go smooth. Everything's pretty easy to understand. Everything I showed you is exactly what it looks like. If you've participated on an eBay auction before, it's the same thing. And everything else is the same with what you're used to in traditional real estate. Okay, Evelyn, how do you make sure the highest bidder has been properly finally qualified? What happens if their financing falls apart? So treat this again as what you might be familiar with in a blind bidding situation. However, we are setting the terms of this particular auction. In this particular auction, it is a firm offer. So if someone is participating, they are making an offer without a financing condition, and they're acknowledging that that's not in there. And it would follow the exact same terms as if you were to do that in a blind offer situation. If somebody requires a financing condition to make an offer, this would not be a property that we would advise, or that you should advise your clients to participate in. We have had auctions where there was a financing condition included. But in this particular case, and in many of our auctions, we do as much as we can to provide all the information that will allow people to make an informed offer that is firm, which for right or for wrong is what we're seeing a ton of right now in a lot of the bidding wars. Is firm offers are what we see a lot of people come forward with. But if somebody did require financing for this, you can go and do some extra due diligence ahead of time. If you'd like to get an appraisal, if you'd like to get pre-approvals and gain some comfort, by all means, I'd recommend that. But if there is not a comfort level there to be able to make an offer without a financing condition, then I wouldn't recommend that you bid and participate in this particular auction. Will closing date be flexible if someone's not comfortable with 45 days and needs 80 days? Unless given permission ahead of time, the answer is no. The terms that are laid out in the auction are consistent for everybody who's participating. If you or your client is requiring something different, we ask you to reach out to the listing agent ahead of time. We have had situations where it's a minor change, or it's some sort of immaterial difference from the terms. And if that is a change that's allowed, one thing you need to know is that any change that's made for one person would then be made to everybody who's participating, and we would update everybody accordingly with those terms. Conditions like appliances and working conditions.
Evelyn,
Yeah,
do
go ahead.
you want me to answer that? Just
sure.
Typically, I think we do these auction sales and as is condition, but I think that can be customized based on the property. In this particular instance, it is an estate sale, and the estate trustees cannot make any representations or warranties about the state of the property. It is not their home. So for that reason, it is an as-is sale. We've given you as much information as possible about the appliances, and you're more than welcome to book a showing and test them. But that is it for this particular property.
Yes. There's another question that was asked that I'm going to go back to the pre-authorization, something that I didn't mention, which is you'll see it. So it's important to know when you do the pre-authorization, there is a nominal, I think it's a 50-cent charge that goes on your card. It's done by a company called Stripe, which are, I want to say they're the biggest kind of pre-auth company that's out there. That's who we're associated with. The 50 cents is basically to ensure that the card is legit and actually can process payments. That 50 cents would be and is refunded after the auction is over. So we don't keep your 50 cents, but you will see a 50-cent charge. And so that's something to know. Okay, just to clarify, hypothetically, if someone adds a pre-bid for 800,000 today, will the auction only open at the reserve bid? Yes, exactly. So if someone and I should say, assuming the reserve is below 800,000, I don't want to show too many cards here, but yes, if someone were to bid a number that's big and it's in excess of the reserve bid as a pre-bid, then the auction would open at the reserve price. Alternatively, let's say two people bid in a pre-bid. One person bids $1 million. I'm just going to use deliberately humongous numbers here. One person bids $1 million and one person bids $1.1 million. Then the auction would open at $1,001,000. And both bids would be shown, that you'd see someone made a pre-bid of $1 million and they were automatically outbid. And then the person who bid 1.1 would be protected in the same way as they would have leading up to the auction. So all of the mechanisms of how the bids work are exactly the same as if they were happening during the auction. It's just nothing is shown or made public until the actual auction begins. Okay, good question. If there's tied high bids, tie goes to the first one in. That's the easy answer there. So let's say you've got a high bid of $800,000, and right now the bidding is at $775. And somebody says, okay, I'm in second place, I'm going to put a maximum of 800. That person who bids 800 will still not be the leader. It's the person who had the initial maximum of 800 who will be in the lead. And it will show in the bid history that there were two bids of $800,000. You will see both of them there, but you'll see that the person who bid first is the one who's in the lead. That's how tied bids work. And that also will tip you off, if that happens, that the person in the lead has probably just hit their maximum, in the same way that the smaller increment is protected as well. And I hope if there's any other questions about the pre-authorization, the sign up, the bidding process, by all means, we're here all the time. Reach out to Nadia, reach out to us at On the Block if you'd like. This whole presentation is going to be put on both YouTube and I want to say elsewhere, maybe on Facebook as well, but it has been recorded. And yeah, oh, but there's more questions. That's why I ramble on. Oh no, okay, that's all the information. Oh, I missed the initial part. Who is the current owner? Condo Corp, as I see, it's vacant. Yeah, this is an estate sale. I don't know, Nat, if you want to speak specifically to who the current owner is.
Sorry, yes, it is an estate sale. It is two young daughters that are actually handling the estate of their late mom who passed away late last year. They have not lived in the home, but they have been assigned as estate trustees and they're handling the estate. The property has been vacant for quite some time.
And that also does speak to the earlier question about the appliances in working order. I mean, obviously there's no representations to be made, but the inspection has been done and nobody's living there now. So there shouldn't be any changes made to what it is right now based on what the inspection said. And so, yeah, so the bidding is...
Probate is complete and the deceased did not pass away in the home and it was of natural causes.
Yes. Okay, so here we are. Again, whether you're participating or not, we thank you for coming to this webinar. And you are more than welcome to tune in at 6060snowyowl.com tomorrow. You'll be able to see this at 5 o'clock. If bids are coming in, you'll be able to see them in real time. And it might not be over at 8 o'clock. Again, if there's a bid in the last 3 minutes, we've seen some auctions that go to 8:15, 8:20, but we'll see.
A few people have asked me, like, what's the best way to do this? Or like, how do you guys usually do this with your clients? You can do a Zoom watch party. I think I will be going live on Zoom tomorrow evening and inviting whoever wants to watch live. But you can do the same. Some people will have their clients set a max bid at the beginning and then kind of walk away for an hour and come back and see. But I would recommend that whether you're on at 5 p.m. sharp or not, from 7, I would say try to keep a close eye.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think there's usually a downtime between like 6 and 7. So you might see some stuff at the beginning. You're going to see some stuff at the end. I think the peaks and valleys are pretty clear in this, but just make sure you show up. Make sure you participate. It's fun. And it's not just fun when you win. I mean, it's the most fun when you win. But again, not being successful is a lot easier to swallow for buyers here than when it's a blind situation, right? You're able to go where you're comfortable. You know you went where you needed to go. And that's really the whole point of this process, is just to make this more comfortable for buyers, to allow them to do what they are comfortable doing. And you won't overpay, right? Which is nice. You're going to be paying what you need. So again, I think we're good. Thanks to everybody who's been watching. Ask questions between now and the auction and beyond. We hope to see you there. If you haven't yet registered, do it. I'm registered.
I'm registered. I'm not bidding though.
I might. I don't know.
No.
But no, I won't. Actually, you know what? That's one more question that we get asked that I didn't address. We, as the brokerage and the sellers and sellers family, we are all bound not to bid on the property. That is a question we get. We are not what's called shill bidding, which is legal in jurisdictions like Australia, where people bid up their own properties to try to get the reserve price hit quicker. We are not allowed to do that. We are all signed and acknowledged in the listing agreement that that is not permitted. So every bid you see is in fact a legitimate verified bid from someone who's interested in purchasing the property. And so if there's any, nobody asked about that, but that is a question we get. That's it. Sorry, I was seeing more questions, but you're welcome to everybody. And thank you, Nadia, for the tour and for putting such a cool auction together.
Thank you for providing this awesome platform for us wonderful agents to use. Thank you.
It's Valentine's Day. We'll start the love fest now. We'll stay live for the next hour, just saying nice things to each other. All right. Thanks to everybody. I'm going to shut down. We'll see you tomorrow.